Everybody can be great because everybody can serve.
My name is Lori Sapansky. I'm the founder of Youth Volunteer Corps of Hampton Roads. So when I was 12, I started volunteering. I was a candy striper, which is a hospital volunteer, but you wore the candy striper suit. And I really got a lot out of that. I learned a lot, and I really felt like I was making a difference. So I did that for 2 or 3 years. I saw that you really could make a difference just doing a little bit. A friend of mine said, "Lori, you love volunteering. Why don't you start up a business with volunteering?" So I got online. I saw Youth Volunteer Corps, the main headquarters, the organization that has affiliates, and thought, wow, they're doing everything I would want to do and more. So I called them up, and they said that they had to, if we were going to have an affiliate, we had to have a sponsor organization. We found National Center for Prevention of Community Violence was our sponsor organization, and we worked with them for about a year. They provided great contacts for us, and but we decided really what we wanted to do is have our own 501c3 so that when we tried to raise funds, it wasn't confusing for the donors that we had. So I talked to David Batty, who's the founder of Youth Volunteer Corps, and he said, yeah, let's do it. So we applied, got our own 501c3 status, and from there the building started. The first steps in starting Youth Volunteer Corps of Hampton Roads was we needed to have some buy-in from the community. And one of the most important parts of that was talking to the different school districts and finding out who would advertise YVC. We were very fortunate because Dr. Kilgore from Newport News Public School bought into it. She put us in touch with one of the youth development leads for the school district, who ended up serving on our board. And we were able to get into some of the schools, and we had access to their advertising. They let everybody know. We found some really strong school counselors and teachers that would take over YVC, and so we got that going. But now the program started to grow, and what we really needed was young adults who could make the program funds, and that's where CNU came in. And initially I went to CNU and looked for people who would just volunteer their time, and I ended up with 4 incredible people that volunteered for 2 years, I would say 15 hours a week, and helped us get things running. And then after that we became part of their Bonner program. They served probably about the same, 15 hours a week all year long, and for 4 years. So they grew in their knowledge of YVC. And then of course we had to build a board of directors, and they were phenomenal. They were hands-on, they shared their expertise, they were just invaluable. Everything just worked out because people cared about what we were trying to accomplish, and gave a lot of their time and talents. It was less challenging to get the kids involved than it was to even open up. There were organizations that now they love to have Youth Volunteer Corps members there, but we were an unknown. And so initially we had to let them know, no, really, we're going to be supervised. And the funny thing is, I think one of the most common comments we got was, wow, these youth volunteers work circles around other groups that we've had here, and they're amazing, and when can you come back? So
I'm Heather Peterson. I am board president for YVC. Our mission is about providing service learning opportunities for youth to learn life and work skills and develop an ethic of lifetime service. I had a really great friend who was on the board that invited me to be part of the organization. I'm an educator, and she thought that my background and my passion for supporting youth would make a great connection, and she was absolutely right. After the first board meeting, I knew that this was something that I definitely wanted to be a part of. I joined in 2016 and have been here ever since, and don't regret a moment of it. It's been an amazing experience. First came on board under Lori's leadership. It was a very diverse board in terms of different types of backgrounds, in terms of different types of careers that people had around that board. And just like any organization, the board shifts. For a little while, we were a very education heavy board, which was wonderful because everybody embraced and supported our mission. But then as we looked around for sponsorships and things, we knew we needed to diversify in who we brought around the table. So now we're in a really exciting space. I would describe the culture of our board right now as one full of enthusiasm. We've brought on people with medical backgrounds, marketing backgrounds, entrepreneurship, service learning backgrounds. So really the scope of what the board is looking at is more exciting than it's ever been.
I think the one word I describe Katie from the time I met her is dynamo. She was a William and Mary student with a family, and she was studying to be a school counselor. And on top of that, she agreed to take on Youth Volunteer Corps Club. And that's, I think, because she had that passion for service. She didn't have to do that. I remember going to her club one time, starting up the YVC club, and the club was in like a regular size room. And the next time I go, and it's in a bigger room. And then the next time I go, it's an even bigger room. And Katie had this knack for grabbing everybody and saying, hey, I want you here. Come join our YVC club. So she graduated and then was assigned to a middle school, and she started YVC there. And of course, she was a standout YVC club sponsor, always organized, going above and beyond and taking kids places and doing really great projects. So when I made that decision that I needed to leave YVC, the only person I wanted is Katie Morgan to come in. So
a whole experience with YVC started when I was actually an intern in my master's program. I was working at Denby High School, and that turned into a part-time position, and I was approached by the Career Pathways Director for Newport News Public Schools, and she asked if I would be interested in starting a YVC club, and it sounded like a perfect fit, being a new school counselor. So that was my very first club that I ever started at Denby. So she actually was with Anna Thinkwanegwe when they approached me at Denby High School. So I remember the two of them coming together to Denby High School and showing up in the counseling office. And Anna introduced me to Lori and said that Lori had just started this new organization and that Career Pathways was really going to get behind Youth Volunteer Corps as a way to teach work and life skills and make sure youth students, in particular high school, middle school, were getting those service learning experiences under their belts. Lori reached out to me and just said, hey, when I start thinking about retiring, is this something you'd be interested in doing full time? And at the time, my reaction was like, I really am invested in school counseling. So that's probably just not going to be the line of work for me at this point. And my initial reaction was like, thank you so much for offering, but I just don't know that, I'm ready to leave my students. And then after, some time thinking, I realized that with my experience just with the club, I would still be working with students. In 2017, when I transitioned out of school counseling into this role, with very little, actually like no nonprofit experience, the learning curve was really just figuring out how to run an organization, but the programming was where my passion was. And so that was kind of like the piece of cake.
Think about how innovative the organization could be. And I think the greatest example of that is what happened during COVID.
There's currently no vaccine to prevent
the world economy has been rocked by the spread of
protect yourself from spreading the virus.
Katie's ability to pivot and have staff pivot to make sure that we can meet the needs not only of our youth, but also the community partners. And during COVID, when we had to shift into a virtual space, a lot of organizations weren't able to continue with what their mission was. But Katie was thoughtful and creative in how we could still develop youth, create those experiences to give back and still, again, support our community partners in a lot of different ways. And I think that really shifted the way that we operated as an organization, that it allowed us to not think of barriers that would prohibit us, but thinking about how can we use technology to enhance opportunities for young people. So I just think we're always constantly thinking, how can we make the organization bigger and better?
The reality was it leveled and completely pretty much decimated our school clubs. And to me, our school clubs, that's where I got my start. That's where I know a lot of my students at the high school and middle school in Newport News got their start, and it is what we consider the great equalizer, because there are so many families who cannot access our evening and weekend programs. So when the school clubs went by the wayside due to COVID, I was definitely concerned. But thankfully, there have been so many amazing partners that I've worked with, but in particular, I know Jeremy and I put our heads together and said, how can we get more high school students working with his elementary students, and how can we do that utilizing the infrastructure that was in place? And at the time, I'm sure you can remember that the buses, it was just a nightmare trying to utilize any type of after-school buses, which is really essentially what made it impossible to have school clubs right after COVID. So we were able to come up with a way to have our high schoolers bused during the school day to elementary schools and provide near-peer mentoring, and it really just embraced the YVC model. And coming in as a new nonprofit leader and learning through so many different mentors and workshops and classes and certifications, it has been something that over the past 7 years has thankfully become a fruitful endeavor, because we are growing quickly and hopefully responding to demand in a very high quality way, but also finding more support from people who realize the benefits of young people who serve. But we also have been getting more support through the Presidential Leadership Program, looking at other partnerships across the water, making sure that we can just continue to add team leaders, add staff, and just continue to meet the demands of our community.
I absolutely love YVC. I love YVC because it kind of helped me, especially at a young age, learning about all the different opportunities. And I feel like the organization just builds character for a lot of young students. And I love seeing the growth in YVCHR, and I can't wait to see where it goes in the future.
I can't think of anything. I'm just grateful it's still going.
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Whoa, you are the peace in my troubled sea.